How to make an apple fritter cake. Let's get into it. First, we're going to make our buttermilk. You want to measure out 10 fluid ounces of milk. Add about a tablespoon or so of vinegar or lemon juice or lime juice. Whisk it all together until it's well combined. Mine looks kind of brown because I used a different kind of vinegar this time. But when it's all mixed and combined, put it to the side for about 10 minutes. And if it starts to curdle, that's fine, it's supposed to do that. Meanwhile, you want to melt 8 tablespoons of softened butter. In advance, you'll want to make the 8 tablespoons and 2 eggs at room temperature, so make sure you take those out in advance. When your butter's all melted, put it to the side until we're ready to use it, so it cools down. Next, we're going to make our topping. So you want to get 2 sticks or 16 tablespoons of butter and put that into a medium to largish size bowl. You want to have space to mix everything together. Fun fact, save your butter wrappers just until we crack the eggs. So you crack them on here, you don't have to make a mess everywhere. Add 1 small heaping, meaning just let it go over the top a little bit, cup of packed brown sugar. Add 2 tablespoons of flour. And lastly, add a tablespoon of cinnamon. Or if you want to do like what I'm doing, I'm actually adding a spice mix of cinnamon, ground cloves, ginger, and allspice. Just to level it up a little. Your choice. Now mix everything together until it's well combined, but don't mix it so much that it's like one smooth thing. It's okay if it is because we're going to be dolloping it on after. But if you get to a point where there are some big lumps, some small lumps, that's good enough. And of course, if you don't feel comfortable using your clean hands, just use a spatula, or not a spatula, like a spoon or a baking spatula instead. Once everything's smooth and well combined, we're just going to put it to the side till we're ready to use it. Now in a medium to large size bowl, add 2.5 cups of cake flour. 3 teaspoons of baking powder, half teaspoon of salt, and add 3/4 cup of sugar. With the rubber spatula I mentioned earlier, give everything a mix until it's well combined. To your buttermilk, you're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, or in my case, I'm adding vanilla bean paste. And whisk in 2 room temperature eggs. Whisk everything together until it's well combined. Once everything's well mixed together, you're going to go back to your flour mixture for a second and make a well in the center. Basically, it just means make a hole like this and pour your liquids into the hole as carefully as possible. And don't forget to scrape down your bowl. Take your melted butter and add that to your mixture as well. Don't forget to scrape down your bowl. Now we're just going to gently fold everything together until there are no lumps remaining. You just scoop all the way to the bottom, lift it up gently, and then flop it over. That's basically all folding is. Scoop down gently all the way to the bottom, lift up a scoop, flop it to the side, keep going until there are no lumps. It might seem a little tedious, but it will help you not overmix your cake. And don't forget to scrape the sides of your bowl and maybe turn it every once in a while. When there are no more lumps remaining, you want to put this to the side for a second so we can get our pan. You want to grease a standard 8 by 11 inch pan with some Pam spray or oil or some butter, whatever you got. Then simply pour or scoop in your batter into one nice even layer in your pan. Don't forget to scrape down your bowl. Once you've got all the layers in one nice even layer, you're going to put this to the side for a second. Now we're going to dice up 5 apples. Now the recipe does call for you to peel these, but I'm going to experiment a little and not peel them just to see what happens. I'm sure they'll come up fine, but I think they might be a little bit, the skin might be a little tough for some people to eat, that's all. And while you're dicing your apples, you can start scattering them all over the top of your cake. Make sure it's in one nice even layer so everybody gets some. So personally, I actually ended up cutting up 3 apples. I feel pretty satisfied with this. But if you want to cut 4 or 5, that's totally fine too. Really, it's just what it looks like as long as the whole thing is covered. It's good. And you also want to make sure you use a good baking apple, so like a Granny Smith or a Gala would be good. These hold their shape and they cook well, but they also don't turn to mush, unlike some certain other apples. Next, you want to take your topping mixture and just dollop it all over the apples. And you want to make sure, as much as possible, you want to cover all of the apples with the mixture. You can even flatten it out, spread it out a little bit. To be honest, I ended up just taking my clean hands, taking a big glob, pressing it down as big as possible, and then throwing it into a spot and then kind of gently stretching it out more. It's a lot easier than using a spoon or a fork, to be honest. There are some spots exposed, but that's okay as long as everybody gets a decent amount. Regardless, you want to bake this off at 350 degrees for about 45 minutes. While our cake's in the oven, we're going to make our glaze. In a medium to small size bowl, add 2.5 cups of superfine confectionery sugar, powdered sugar. Add 2 ounces of milk. And about a teaspoon of vanilla extract or vanilla bean paste. Carefully mix until well combined and then put it to the side when it's nice and smooth until we're ready to use it. If you need to add a little bit more liquid because it's too solid, feel free to add a little bit more milk. And if it's too runny, feel free to add a little bit more confectionery sugar. A little too thick, I'm going to add a little bit more milk. And when a toothpick inside it comes out clean, remove it from the oven and let it cool down. When it's cooled down, take your icing, stir it up a little bit, start drizzling it all over your cake. You can add as much or as little as you'd like. Pour a nice thick layer as evenly as possible over your cake, and then let this sit until it's not quite so tacky. If you have any leftover glaze, use it for another recipe. When your glaze is soft but not tacky anymore, it's time to cut and serve. This cake is best served warm with ice cream or whipped cream. And when you're ready, serve and enjoy.